going to have to start again. There we go.
What we talk about.
He's live.
Yeah.
Well, hello everybody. Lovely to be back again with our love notes. This is number 6, and we're here with just our favourite person, Judith Sedgeman, and we've just been having a chat, which is always a treat for us as well. So the idea, as we say most times, is that we have always, before Viva, put out some lovely conversations that we just think are standalone and helpful, and also to highlight the fact that we are this year going ahead virtually, which, you know, feels quite a stretch for me, not being as a tech genius. I might be by October. So without further ado,
you never know. You never know.
Well, you don't believe that's going to happen, so I'll have to show you. Our conversations after, well, we're going to be listening, but Judith's going to see what comes to mind in the realm of resilience, because as we were just saying, you know, what could be more relevant in today's world than such a topic that can help so many people so profoundly. So welcome, Judith, and thank you for your time. Again, we're always thanking you because you're so kind and supportive.
Well, I love to be supportive because you are wonderful women that do a fabulous job. And I think I like the idea of recognizing great women when great women do great things. You know, so it's not like they're no great men, but they get a lot of recognition. So, you know, it's funny. I've been thinking a lot about this recently because I don't know if anybody remembers, but years ago, remember when Second Life was a big deal? And everybody had a Second Life online, and you know, you could create your own house and your own city and avatars and make friends, and people were even able to, I never figured that out, but people were even able to have sex online virtually. And it got to be kind of a terrible place, you know, because it was like real life but not. And so like, it was hard enough to have your own real life and have this second life that you had to spend time in. And every time I do one of these virtual webinars, I remember Second Life. And I think, oh gosh, you know, it's funny. So many of us, I think, feel that we're together, but not really. And it often doesn't feel real to be on a webinar. But I think that it's easy to get past that once you just kind of look in people's eyes and remember that, you know, we're all together on the planet and we're all connected. And we're all one anyway, so it doesn't matter where we are. But it is kind of fun, and it's been fun to see people's pets and their kids running by. And one of my colleagues told me recently that she at one point was talking online to a client, and her husband walked by stark naked. Didn't realize his wife was on.
I love it when things like that happen.
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyway, I live alone and I have a cat, so nothing weird and strange is going to happen here.
You're not going to see a naked cat then.
You're not going to see, you know,
or a dressed dog.
So anyway, my topic today, or what I was, you know, asked to kind of reflect on for this call in this Facebook chat is resilience, which is like, to me, it's like that. So what's new? We're all resilient, but we don't always know it. And I've been thinking about this a lot because the world is in such turmoil right now, and there's so many kind of weird things happening at one time all over the world, you know, not to mention the coronavirus, which is everywhere. And then there's all kinds of political upheaval, and then there's social justice, and there's the Black Lives Matter movement, which has kind of gone global. And it just seems like every time you turn around, there's some new crisis to read about or hear about. And I think it's really taking a toll on some people's connection to their resilience. You know, it's easy to be resilient when everything's going okay. And the real test of how we, you know, access our resilience comes when we're confronted with stuff. And I sort of noticed it on the news. I'm thinking now it's like a poster board of the resilient people and the not so resilient people. And it's when you see people interviewed, you know, in different situations, or even hear politicians talk, you can really, insecurity kind of stands out like, like a big dirty spot on a person's face. And the people who are secure are so inspiring. I don't know if you've noticed the same thing, but I've noticed that sometimes somebody will come on and you listen to them, just ordinary people, and maybe they've lost someone to the illness, or they're working in an emergency room, or they're trying to function in their small business while all this difficulty is going on, and they'll say things that it just hits your heart, and you go, wow, this person has not lost touch with that, that inner knowledge that we are fine no matter what. And I was listening to this recently, and I'm sorry I can't remember his name because I'd love to give him credit, but I just can't. Listen to a man who owns apparently a very high-end restaurant in a big American city, and he was saying, I might lose the restaurant. It's very possible that, this was my live stream and it took a long time for me to build it up and get it to where it was. But you know what? I'm going to spend the last dime I have making sure my employees are paid until I just can't pay them anymore. Because in the long run, what matters is people. And I thought, what a beautiful, generous spirit. And then the interviewer, who was not quite at that level of confidence about life, said, well, if you lose your restaurant, that's your life, what your life's dream is shattered. And he said, there's always another dream. And he said, if it doesn't work out, something else, I'll do something else. I'll find something. And he was so not rattled by the reality. And then he started talking about these wonderful people that had worked with him for so many years, and that the last thing he could possibly imagine doing was selfishly abandoning them. He said, I'll sell everything I own before I'll abandon my people. And, that is such a beautiful, beautiful feeling that he portrayed. And I thought, what does resilience bring into our lives? It brings peace of mind. It brings compassion. It brings love. It brings wisdom to know what's important and what isn't, and it brings moments of insight and inspiration for other people. And I thought, if we lived in a world in which that was the most prevalent feeling, a lot of the problems that we have wouldn't even be problems now. So it's like if people were in touch with that beautiful feeling, they would wear a mask, not because they have a political statement to make, but because they really worry about other people. And they think, well, if they take care of me and I take care of them and we're taking care of each other, it's probably going to work out better. And it's common sense. But, I live in Florida in the United States. I don't know how many of you are familiar with what's going on in Florida. There's no reason you would be, but we have a giant political chasm, and mask wearers have become the gap between mostly Trump supporters and mostly people who either are indifferent to politics or don't support Trump. And so as a person who always wears a mask, I have been attacked, by people in the grocery store. And, well, you're just a liberal. You're just wearing the mask to make a statement. And I'm saying, yeah, I'm making a statement that I care whether you get sick or not. But they, it's funny that people have personalized things, and that when we lose touch with our resilience, that's kind of the bottom floor of where we get to selfishness, clinging to our belief system rather than being open to new ideas or inspiring thoughts. Grabbing onto whatever external thing we think might give us a sense of security, even if it risks our lives. So it becomes more important to make a statement about the things, my beliefs, than it does to just give it up and wear the mask and go to the grocery store. And you think about that and you realize that resiliency is the I don't know, it's like the fabric of our lives, and when that fabric is torn asunder, things start to go wrong. And when people are really resilient, when the whole the whole of any culture, any group, any family is in touch with that natural feeling of resiliency. They live in a different world, no matter what's going on in the outside world. And I think resiliency is kind of the true barometer of what's real and what isn't. Because when you don't feel resilient, when you're feeling really insecure and low and frightened and anxious and stressed, you know, which all of us feel sometime, but if it sticks around with you and you forget the human capacity to create something different, to survive, to thrive, to transcend circumstances, we get so frightened all we try to do is recreate something we felt safe in before. And that's kind of what's happened around the world, where people, you know, are just denying that something's happening that's really happening, like a virus, you know, which we have no control over. And so they say, well, I don't care, I'm going back. I'm tired of being inside. I'm just going to go back to my life and it'll be fine. I'll be fine. And then, you know, somebody in their family dies and they think, oh my God, maybe I'm not fine, but I don't care. You know, and we lose our common sense, and we lose our beautiful feelings. And, you know, I had a client the other day, you know, who accused me of being Pollyanna because she was so sad and upset about everything that was going on. And, you know, and I said, well, you can accuse me of being a Pollyanna, but my question to you is, in the state of mind you're in right now, I mean, she was actually sobbing about, you know, how the world has just gone to hell and everything in her life is different and she can't do any of the things she wants to do and people are terrible. And, you know, I just, you know, you can imagine the conversation. And I was saying, you know, just calm down, just listen to me for a minute. Let me talk to you about what's possible. And what you've forgotten, you know, but you can re-access it. And she's like, well, that's fine. If everything was okay, I'd be fine. And I'm going like, that's the whole problem. You know, it's not contingent. It's not contingent. And I started talking to her about resiliency, and she said, you're just a Pollyanna. And I got to the question, and I said, okay, I'll buy that. You know, I'm okay being a Pollyanna, and it doesn't hurt my feelings that you would say that. But do you think if you were, you know, on a sinking ship, that you would rather follow the Pollyanna person that says, hey, I know where the lifeboat is, just come with me, or the person that went, oh my God, we're screwed? And she said, well, obviously, if somebody knows where the lifeboat is, I would follow them. And I said, great, well, that's a real reason to listen to what I'm saying and at least give it a shot, you know, because I'm trying to point to the lifeboat. And I have finally, she did laugh, you know, I have to give her credit for waking up for a minute and laughing at that. But that's what we all have. We have our own lifeboat. It's there. It's who we are really. It's the heart and soul of our humanity. And you can't break human spirit. You know, when I have clients that come to me and say, oh yeah, but I'm mentally ill, I'm broken, I'm damaged, I've had these terrible things happen to me. I'm going like, you know, the reason you can't break the human spirit is because it's formless. I'm sorry, but how do you break nothing? You know, you can't, it's not like, you know, the spirit is a thing and somebody can just grab that thing and smash it. You just can't. It's the formless divine energy that's keeping us alive. And that's untouchable. That's beyond our reach because it's before our form. You know, the spirit is before the form. And the form is temporary and the spirit is eternal. And I think we don't want to forget that right now, because I think resilience is the only thing that's going to pull us all together out of what's going on. And when we find it, when we're close to it, when it's our heart, we get ideas. We get ideas about just in the moment, how to be safe, how to be okay. it's, it's that, people don't necessarily connect wisdom with our state of mind or with resilience, but there is a connection in that when we're really not feeling our resilience, when we kind of slam the door on that flow, all we have is the thoughts that we've got. That's all we've got, is what we've thought already. And if it hasn't solved our problems up to this point, there's no answer there. It's like when I remember when I was in 8th grade, and I do the algebra problems that were kind of complicated, and I would do the problem over and over again. I get so frustrated, I'd say, oh, because the back of the book always tells you the answer, but doesn't tell you how to get it. So, you can go to the back of your textbook and see what answer you were supposed to get. You didn't get it. And I would keep doing the problem over and over and over, and I'd keep getting the same wrong answer. And I remember sitting in tears at my little desk when I was in 8th grade, and my dad coming in the room and saying, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Dad, I know I know how to do this problem, and I keep doing it, and I can't get the right answer." And he says, "Take a break." That's my dad. Never heard of the principles, he was a long time ago. He says, "Take a break." And I'm going like, I can't take a break. I got to finish my homework, because, when you're away from your resiliency, common sense doesn't make any sense to you at all. And my father said, "Well, I tell you what, let's have some ice cream." I said, "Oh, okay." Of course. And so we went in the kitchen and got some ice cream, and, he was just chatting with me about life and super silly stuff, And he says, "Well, it's been about 20 minutes. He said, "You really should probably get back to your homework." And I sat down and looked at the problem again, and I saw immediately the step I missed. I just missed a step, and I kept missing the same step because I was frustrated. And when we're frustrated, we're stuck with the thoughts we've had all along. And as soon as the frustration goes away, your mind is clear and you see anew. You get fresh thoughts. It's that simple. And I thought so many times about how, and wisdom is common. A lot of parents have had it for centuries, eons. And, we don't have to teach everybody in the world the principles for them to find their resilience. But we really have to help each other to stay calm, because that's when people find it. So getting into it with people is like the worst possible strategy, and yet that's what people tend to do. And it's funny, I was in the grocery store. I don't go very often, but I try to go when it's not very crowded, because it's so many non-mask wearers in the grocery store in Florida. But so I'm in the grocery store, and I'm standing 6 feet back waiting for my turn, and the person in front of me is being checked out. And the checkout people have a plexiglass screen now, plus they wear masks. And so the lady's behind the plexiglass screen checking, just running the groceries through the checkout. And the lady that was being checked out, who was not wearing a mask, starts saying, "What do you need that damn screen for? You just it's just crazy. It used to be fun to come to Publix. It used to be fun to interact with you guys. And now you're standing way back, and I was like, what?" And she's going on and on. The lady's just checking out. She's not even looking at her. And at the end of the checkout, when she looks up to tell her how much her groceries are, she says, "Your groceries are $60-something. And by the way, I hope you cheer up." And
Perfect.
So when I pulled up to it's my turn to check out, I said, "That was great advice." And she said, "Well, that's what my grandma always used to say to me." She said, when I would get all upset and cranky and start whining and yelling about stuff, my grandma her answer was always, "I just hope you cheer up." And she said, it used to make me so mad. But then when I cheered up, I thought, I'm glad she said that.
My mother's.
So I think, that wisdom. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say one of my mum's favorites was take no notice. You'd be telling her about something somebody had said at school, or your boyfriend or whatever. Well, you just take no notice. But I never understood the wisdom of that. I think she did.
Yeah.
But couldn't explain it to me why that was wisdom.
wise.
True.
Yeah.
But I certainly return to that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I was growing up, so my father was a second generation Italian, so his father was an immigrant, and so I had an Italian last name until I got married. And my when I was in elementary school, and this is, I'm old, this was a long time ago. When I was in elementary school, there was a lot of prejudice against Italians, and everybody thought that everybody Italian was, people were very, so every time I'd walk down the hall, there was a group of kids who would scream out, "Guinea, guinea, 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 wop, wop, wop." And I didn't even know what those words meant, but I knew it wasn't nice. I got that much. I was just a kid, what did I know? And I remember coming home from school one day, and my uncle my Uncle Frank, who had fought in World War I. He was the oldest brother in the family. And so my uncle was visiting, and I was telling my mother and my uncle and my father, about this thing that was happening in the hall. And I said, I think that's nasty. I think that's bad. But, and I know they're trying to be hurtful, but I'm not, what does it even mean? And my father says, it means that they're insecure and stupid. And my uncle says, it means that they don't understand what it is. And I said, oh, okay. It's like, it just, they weren't going to get into it. And so I said, well, should I say anything back? And my uncle said, no, I wouldn't. He said, I wouldn't bother. He said, they'll figure it out someday. And so that just stopped meaning anything to me. And I think about all the simple advice that we've gotten over the years that's come from the resilience of the people around us that we don't value as much as we should. And when we get it from ourselves, we often don't see it as wisdom. I think a lot of people think, oh, if I were really, truly, enlightened, and if I really understood all this, and I would get these incredible, brilliant insights. And meanwhile, their house is on fire and their mind is telling them, you probably ought to get the fire extinguisher, but that seems like such an, they don't do it, And that's kind of what we do. We forget that our wisdom is about our life. It's not about, there are people like Sydney Banks who have, and many people who have these epiphany type experiences where they get, a thought that's just huge and, changes a lot. But that's just like the highest form of thoughts that come that sometimes are just like, take a nap, and like my dad saying, take a break. Or you're driving down the road and suddenly you think, I should slow down. And then you realize that you just passed a police car. And it's like, we're always getting from our own wisdom. And let me turn my phone we're always getting, just information about life. And if we're in the state of mind, if we're in touch with our resilience, that's really good information. And if we're in a really low state and we're separate from our own resilience, it's not good information. It's judgmental, it's anxious, it's angry, it's hateful, it's hurtful, it's painful, it's stressful. And that's how you can tell that you're not in touch with your resilience. You get those feelings. And when those feelings come, they're your warning sign. That's what's telling you, oh boy, I need to slow down here. I need to kind of ignore some of this stuff that's coming to mind for me. But it always feels really compelling, when it comes to mind. Our negative thoughts always come with a lot bigger club than our comforting thoughts, which just seem normal when we're in a good mood. So
that's another interesting giveaway.
That's kind of, yeah, it is. And I think sometimes we, I know, and I can speak from my own experience because I spent a good many years of my life before I encountered the principles. I spent a good many years of my life really taking my negative thinking as important information about life, because it seems important. You know, when somebody says, be very afraid of this, or this, you know, you think, well, maybe I should be afraid of it. You know, you can take that on. When somebody says, oh, no, it's fine, you know, we'll be all right. And you think, well, what do they know? You know, danger must lurk somewhere. Yeah. So we tend to, you know, within our own minds. And I remember I was, I spent a lot of time, I've told this story many times, but I spent a lot of time when I was in my business really feeling bad and sad and inadequate, because every client who called me, now remember, I'm in the medical practice management business, working with doctors and doctors' practices. So the only calls I ever got from my clients were when they were mad. And I was so sad, because I thought, we do so many things right. We do so many things good for them, and everybody's thriving and their practices are doing great. And they never tell us that. They call us and say, well, how come I didn't get this or that? Or how come you didn't fix this? And I'd be really upset. And it made me, you know, I was always in this feeling of defensiveness or trying harder, and I was pushing myself. And then when I first started learning the principles, I was checking out one day after having lunch, and I handed the clerk my MasterCard. And when she handed it back to me, I know it was upside down. And I noticed a boldface 800 number on the back of the card. And I'm walking back up to my car, and I thought, gee, I didn't even know there was an 800 number on the back of the card. I've never called that number. And I thought, yeah, because the card worked. You know, I'm not going to call the 800 number and say, oh, I'm so happy the card worked again. I just paid for lunch and it went right through. Thank you so much. And I'm sitting in the car, and I'm realizing I've got like 160 clients, and I get maybe 3 calls a day, which means that on most days, almost 160 people are perfectly satisfied, and their card went right through, you know. So, and it just completely transformed my whole experience of my business, that one ridiculous, laughable insight. But it was powerful, you know, because it turned my thinking inside out, even as silly as it was. And that, I think, the other thing we don't realize, that often our wisdom, you know, that emerges from being connected to our own resiliency, often that wisdom comes in the form of humor. You know, another story that I remember, because we laugh so hard. Well, I used to work as an associate with Pransky and Associates in LaConner. I was there for almost 10 years. And so we're all sitting around one day, and George was saying, you know, I was in the mall the other day and with Linda, and I had this amazing insight. And so we were like, oh yeah, well, what was that? He said, well, he said, you guys know that I love to eat. And we did. We knew that because George loves food. And he loved, you know, all the restaurants in LaConner and all the pastries and all the stuff that they made and everything. And he had started to gain weight, although he was very assiduous about working out and everything. But, you know, as we all get to middle age, we start to gain weight. And he was kind of worried about it. But then he had the idea in his mind, the thing he told himself was that your skin will hold you in, you know, that your skin will only go so far. And then it'll, you know, it won't let you pack any more fat in there. And so he said, I was sitting on a bench in the mall waiting for Linda to buy something at a women's store that I didn't want to go into. And this guy walked back, and he was about my height and about my age, but he must have weighed 400 pounds. He was huge. And this guy sort of waddled past my bench, and I thought, oh my God, my skin doesn't care how much I want to fill it up. It'll just keep expanding. And he said, who knew? And we were just in stitches. But, you know, it changed his life. Because he really did kind of, in the back of his mind, he was always thinking, well, only I could gain so much, and then my skin will take over and hold it all. And then he saw this guy, and he went, oh, wait, I can't count on my skin. I got to do something in my mind. Now, as funny as that is, it's a great story, because that's that's a powerful insight, even though it's a funny story and it seems kind of silly. And the other thing about insights that come to us when we're in that beautiful state of mind is that they are lighthearted, because we're lighthearted in that state of mind. Our thinking comes to us in the form that makes sense in the state of mind we're in. So had George not been just enjoying the day with Linda and been in a totally terrible mood and been, looking at diet books and sitting around thinking, oh God, this is really a big problem, and the same thing happened, instead of finding it funny and realizing, oh, it's not about my skin, it's kind of happening up here, he might have thought, oh my God, I'm doomed. You see what I'm saying? It's like in a low state of mind, the thought that would have come to him would have been the negative, upsetting thoughts that he had that kind of prompted him to start thinking about, maybe I should be careful what I eat. But in a good mood, what came to him was like, your skin's not going to do the job for you, George. You're going to have to take another bath, because look at this guy, And see that, I don't think we appreciate that our level of resiliency is a package. It's a package. So it's a beautiful feeling. It's that spiritual truth that comes through us. It's a beautiful feeling. There's that. And then there's the way our thinking comes to us when we're in that feeling. It doesn't come as bad news. It doesn't come as insoluble problems. It doesn't come as you don't have an answer. It doesn't come as we're all screwed. It doesn't come as this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. Sometimes it comes in the form of just a silly realization, and we think, oh, wait, and we don't appreciate the beauty and the value of that. We don't appreciate it, and I'm always laughing at myself. I spend most of my life having these crazy thoughts that, that come out of nowhere, and they're always helpful, but they're funny. I don't have too many thoughts that come serious anymore. I mean, when I'm serious, I get hold of myself as soon as I can. I always, for example, if I was feeling really serious, I wouldn't even give this talk, if I was having one of those moments. But I know better, because I start talking, I'll get over it. Because seriousness is just thinking about yourself instead of about life in the moment. That's all it is. Seriousness is when you get going on, oh, what's wrong with me? And if you forget about yourself, you're not serious anymore. So that's another little wonderful gift of resilience. Resilience is not a selfish experience. It's kind of, for us, the most unselfish thing we can do is watch our feeling state and know when we're off and try to calm down and get back in touch with that beautiful feeling. Yes, it seems selfish, but it isn't, because that's our gift to the world. Because we have to interact with other people, whether it's online or in the store or in life eventually, and what we bring is either a healing interaction or it isn't. Every moment in time that we spend with other people is either a healing moment, meaning it brings some uplift, or it isn't. Now, it might be neutral. It isn't doesn't mean it's bad. But just think of the power that we have to spread joy. But you can't spread it if you don't feel it. It's kind of like, if I don't feel it, I can't share it. I can only give what I have.
I think it's just wonderful to hear you talking about the humorous side, because Sheila and I were talking about this, about how important it is to us in this arena, call it what you will, that we can bring a light touch, and that we can think of things that make us laugh and trust, well, maybe they'll make other people laugh, because there is a lot of seriousness, so much seriousness. It doesn't mean it's Pollyanna attitude. although I'm with you on that, because I was accused of that at work as well, and I thought it was kind of, oh, I'm glad they've noticed.
Yeah.
Being of
Well,
that ability to laugh at things, not always in the moment, but knowing that it's possible and that we
right.
have that. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I really like about Viva. And I remember that after the first time I came to Viva, you know, I'd always wanted to go, you know, because I was see it online every year, and I'd think, oh, that sounds like so much fun. It sounds great. And I like the lightheartedness of it. I like the surprises, you know, things that you don't warn us that this is going to happen. Something funny happens. You know, I love that. It's sort of like, you know, it's sort of like a playground of resilient people. And I like the light touch. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I wish more conferences were like that. You know, more conferences across the board, not just 3P conferences, but meetings of people, you know, because you really notice the difference when you go to one where people are in generally good spirits. You know, years ago, back in the 80s, is a long time ago, Roger Mills persuaded Dr. Harshbarger, who was at that Harshbarger, I think, who was the president of the incoming president of the American Psychological Association that year, to come to our conference in Berkeley. So we used to have an annual conference every year. And I remember this is back in the days when there were maybe 120 people in the world that even knew about it. And 60 or 70 of them showed up, sometimes more, for these conferences. So we had this conference in Berkeley. So Harshbarger came, and he was expecting a psychology conference because Roger was a psychologist, and he presented it as, you know, we have this new approach. People will be presenting their work and so on. He's expecting what he's used to. So I remember that about the second, I guess it was the second evening of the conference, I'm sitting in the bar in the hotel with Roger and Dr. Harshbarger. And he says, "This is a really strange conference. When do you get to the serious part?" He said, "You know, we only got one more day left, and I haven't heard any discussion. I haven't heard any arguments. You know, people present, everybody claps, and some people ask some questions, and then the next person presents, you know, where's the, you know," and Roger looked at him and he said, "Well, that's kind of a cynical question." And Dr. Harshbarger said, "Well, you know, I've been to psychology conferences my whole life, and there's some serious work going on at these conferences." And Roger says, "Gee, that must be why the field hasn't evolved." And right before we were in the bar, the last speaker, and I forget who it was, but it may have been, I think it might have been Mavis Karn, but she was talking about original thought. And, you know, and the fact that, you know, there is such a thing as just something that's never come to anybody before ever. And, you know, it occurs to you. And Harshbarger says, "You know, that original thought thing," he said, I don't think there's anything to that. He said that, you know, what education is about is, I mean, you learn all the other great thoughts in the world, and then maybe you combine them differently. And he's going on and on about, you know, how the evolution of thought is like looking at all the thoughts that have already been thunk, kind of, and doing different things with them. And so I'm sitting there, and I guess I'd had my second glass of wine. I don't know. I was sitting there, and I said, "You know, Dr. Harshbarger, boy, I'd love to meet the sucker that had that first thought that started the ball rolling." He's like, he looked at me like I just stepped off an alien planet, you know, but the common sense of that is crazy. Like there can't be just like one thought and then it created all these other thoughts. And unless it was the thought to create the universe, you know, that's a different kind of thought. So anyway, that was a fun conference. And afterwards, I remember we got a letter from him, and it thanked us for providing a very enjoyable weekend. He didn't say he learned anything, you know, so, but at least he had a good time. So that was nice. We gave him a lighthearted look at psychology, if nothing else. But that's how entrenched people get in their thinking. You know, it's very easy. All of us have been there at certain points in our life where what we've always thought seems so real to us that any idea that it could be different just doesn't make any sense to us.
Mhm.
And
So true.
yeah, I used to do this little chart that had you remember there was a period of time when they used to put ads on television that showed an egg in a frying pan and said your brain on drugs, and you know the egg would get all sizzled and burned up. Well, anyway, I'm old, that was a long time ago, but anyway, so I used to do a chart called your mind on thought. and you know, because why not? Everybody was looking at that other one thing. So, and what it would have is like varying degrees of little thoughts, you know, like a square, like a set of squares. And then the top one, there were just a few little dots. And in the next one, there were more little squiggly dots. And in the one after that, there were quite a few dense dots. And the one after that, there were like parallel lines that almost filled up the space. And then the bottom one was all black. And so then everybody would wonder what she's going to do with that. And so I labeled the first one, you know, free and clear mind. And the second was, you know, everybody has different ideas, but I kind of like mine. And the third one was, I'm right, but I'm going to listen to these other people anyway, and so on and so forth. But the bottom one, the black one, was reality. And people would say reality. And I'd say, yeah, that's what you see when you say things like, isn't it obvious?
Mhm.
What's wrong with you people? Doesn't everybody know this? You know, what kind of an idiot would disagree with this? It's clear that that's the way it is. And everybody was like, oh my God, you know, because we all have that black box. The thoughts that we've forgotten are thoughts.
Wow.
And when we run up against them, say, yeah, I'm not listening to anything but that. I know I'm right. That's reality. It's the way it is. And, you know, when you can catch yourself at that, it starts opening that, you know, there's a wonderful Leonard, I'm a big fan of Leonard Cohen. I don't know.
Oh, me too.
Fans. I love Leonard Cohen. He's got a beautiful, so many wonderful, he's a great lyricist. But there's a wonderful song called Anthem. And he says, everything is cracked because that's how the light gets in. Yeah, light gets out, I forget, but anyways, how the light gets through. So
there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And that's in a poster in my kitchen.
Oh, well, there you go. So great. So, but that's true. You know, as soon as there's a crack in that black box of reality, you start to realize, oh, thought is more malleable than I thought it was. You know, so
and it's
I don't
noticing,
know. You'll
isn't
have to tell me when my time is.
Yeah, I was just thinking, well, you know what, Judy, could listen to you all day. You know, regaling us with tales and stories and you know, illustrating the points that you're making. It's just fabulous to sit with.
Well, thank you.
Let it wash over, and I'm sitting here nodding my head in agreement with almost everything you're saying. And I love what you're saying about, particularly what struck me was how we overlook the simplicity of it. It feels like we're just overlooking all the time the resilience that's there. And you know, and Sue said it's about noticing. You know, we don't notice. I actually, when you talked about the crack, I suddenly thought, I bet there's always a crack. I bet there's always a crack. It's just whether we notice it or not, because there's no way we've been given a solid reality through which we never going to be able to. There's always be a crack. It's just whether we notice that crack or not. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. You know,
You're welcome.
we didn't even say, did we, about time, but we usually go about 20 minutes, but I think we've probably done about 40.
I'm sorry, I went a little over, but
absolutely fine, and we've got people watching along with us, so you know.
I just wanted to shout out, because I started a watch party, and we've had some lovely comments, including my sister-in-law, actually, Anne. Hello, Anne. One of my favourite statements of truth, and I just think it's wonderful when things just drop in for people and they recognise, and I think some just smiley faces, and you are funny, Judith, there is no doubt about that. And we treasure that, and we're very, very, very grateful that we can enjoy that.
Well,
with
thank you. I appreciate that. You know, life is funny, actually. So, you know, we're supposed to enjoy it.
We're gonna bring
I love Viva, and I'm so looking forward to the conference. And even online, I think it's going to be just great fun. I can't wait to see what you guys have in store for.
You know, the humour, we hope that we will be able to translate some of the humour and surprise online. I'm sure that we'll manage to do that. And so just want to give a shout out that tomorrow's the last day of our early bird tickets. Anybody who's listening tomorrow. So that gives you entrance to our Splash of Viva, which is actually a week today. So Thursday the 6th of August, we're kicking off with a 2-hour medley of, and the wonderful Judy Sedgeman is going to be our plenary speaker. She'll be given as a plenary.
I'll be there.
So you have to think of some new stories, Judy.
Yeah, I have to come up with some new ones. Yeah. Well, something happens every day, so I'm sure.
Absolutely, for sure. So we look forward to that next Thursday. Okay.
Well, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. And thanks for everybody joining.
Online. Thanks a lot. So, see you soon.
Bye.